Most people think disconnection happens suddenly, but it usually starts in quieter ways. You stop paying attention to what you feel and begin focusing only on what is practical, productive, explainable. Slowly, life becomes efficient, but strangely empty. You wake up, answer messages, finish responsibilities, scroll endlessly, repeat routines, and somewhere inside all of that, your inner world starts going silent. Not because it disappeared, but because you stopped listening to it. The strange thing is that the psyche does not stay quiet forever. When ignored for too long, it starts communicating differently, not through logic, but through patterns, tension, symbols, coincidences, emotional reactions you cannot fully explain. And the more modern life pushes people toward constant distraction, the more these signals begin appearing in ordinary moments that suddenly feel emotionally charged for reasons you cannot name. And if you have ever felt something difficult to explain, something that seemed small on the surface but strangely personal inside, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. These videos are for people who think deeply about behavior, emotion, and the hidden patterns behind everyday life. Leave a like if this kind of reflection speaks to you. Comment if you have ever experienced moments that felt psychologically meaningful without fully understanding why. And share this video with someone who has been trying to reconnect with themselves lately. Sometimes another person is carrying the same questions silently, and hearing certain ideas at the right moment changes the way they see their own life without even realizing it immediately. One of the biggest psychological mistakes people make is believing that the mind only communicates through clear thoughts. It does not. A large part of human behavior is driven by emotional signals operating underneath conscious awareness. That is why people often repeat patterns they claim to hate. That is why someone can feel exhausted around certain environments without understanding why. The body notices things before language does. The psyche reacts before logic organizes the explanation. And modern people became very skilled at overriding those reactions. They call intuition irrational. They call emotional discomfort weakness. They force themselves to remain functional while internally disconnected. But the unconscious keeps responding anyway. It leaks through habits, dreams, avoidance, emotional tension, sudden attachment, strange fascination, unexplained discomfort, and those moments where something ordinary suddenly feels psychologically loaded in a way that logic cannot fully dissolve. Carl Jung believed that people spend enormous energy constructing a social identity that feels acceptable to the world. You learn what to say, how to behave, which emotions are tolerated, which parts of yourself receive approval, and gradually you begin performing stability instead of actually feeling connected. The problem is not adaptation itself. Human beings need adaptation. The problem begins when the performance becomes stronger than the person underneath it. That is when life starts feeling emotionally flat, even when everything appears normal externally. Many people experience this without realizing it. They become disconnected from spontaneity, curiosity, instinct, emotional honesty. They continue functioning, but internally everything feels distant. And eventually, the unconscious starts forcing interruptions. A certain conversation affects you too deeply. A memory suddenly returns. A place feels emotionally strange. Something small creates an emotional reaction that seems completely disproportionate. What makes these moments powerful is not the event itself. It is what the event touches internally. Most people spend years trying to control perception because control feels safer than uncertainty. But psychological growth usually begins exactly where control starts failing. That is why periods of transformation often feel confusing before they feel meaningful. Your old emotional structure stops functioning properly, but the new one has not fully formed yet. You become more sensitive to atmosphere, tension, authenticity, contradiction. Suddenly, certain people drain you faster. Certain environments feel unbearable. Certain conversations feel fake in ways you cannot ignore anymore. And while many try to silence these reactions, others begin paying attention. They start asking a dangerous but necessary question. What if these reactions are not random? What if the psyche is trying to recover parts of you that adaptation forced underground years ago? This is why emotionally transformative periods often look ordinary from the outside. There is rarely dramatic music or visible collapse. Most of the time, a person simply becomes quieter internally. They begin observing more carefully. They notice patterns they ignored before. They stop feeling emotionally satisfied by distractions that once worked perfectly. And this stage frustrates many people because modern culture trains individuals to seek immediate clarity. But inner transformation is rarely immediate. It unfolds indirectly. The psyche communicates symbolically, emotionally, behaviorally, sometimes through attraction, sometimes through resistance, sometimes through repetition. You keep encountering the same emotional tension in different forms because the lesson underneath has not been understood yet. Jung believed that until unconscious material becomes conscious, people experience it externally and call it fate. And many lives are shaped by patterns that were never examined deeply enough to be interrupted. The frightening part about self-awareness is that once you begin seeing these patterns clearly, returning to emotional autopilot becomes almost impossible. You start noticing how much social behavior is performance, how many conversations are built on avoidance, how many people confuse emotional numbness with maturity. You notice how often distraction is used to escape self-contact. Endless stimulation, endless scrolling, endless noise. Not because people are shallow, but because silence forces confrontation. And confrontation reveals contradictions most individuals spend years avoiding. Jung believed every person carries a shadow, not simply dark emotions, but neglected aspects of the self that were rejected during adaptation. Confidence that became suppressed, anger that became guilt, vulnerability hidden behind humor, sensitivity buried under productivity. And the longer these parts remain ignored, the more psychologically fragmented life begins to feel internally. But real transformation does not happen through self-hatred. It happens through honest recognition. The moment a person stops asking, "How do I become more acceptable?" and starts asking, "What parts of myself have I abandoned to survive socially?" something begins changing psychologically. That question rearranges perception, because healing is not becoming someone entirely new. Often it is recovering emotional truth underneath years of performance, and this process is deeply uncomfortable at first. Not because the truth is evil, but because authenticity removes protective illusions. You begin realizing how much energy was spent maintaining versions of yourself that no longer feel real. That realization creates grief, but it also creates relief. For the first time, you stop fighting internal signals constantly. You stop forcing certainty where confusion honestly exists. You stop punishing yourself for feeling emotionally complex. Inside, a culture obsessed with appearing emotionally controlled. One reason psychologically reflective people often feel isolated is because modern environments reward speed more than awareness. Quick opinions, quick reactions, quick identity. But self-understanding moves slowly. It requires observation. It requires discomfort. It requires the willingness to sit with emotional ambiguity without immediately escaping into distraction or explanation. And many people never develop this capacity because they were taught that uncertainty means weakness. Jung disagreed completely. He believed uncertainty was often the doorway into transformation because it forces the personality beyond its old limits. The problem is that crossing that threshold feels psychologically disorienting. Your previous emotional map stops working. You no longer relate to life exactly the same way. And during this stage, ordinary moments begin carrying unusual emotional weight because the unconscious is reorganizing your relationship with yourself underneath conscious awareness. Eventually, something unexpected happens during this process. Life stops feeling purely mechanical, not because reality becomes magical, but because you become psychologically present again. You notice emotional signals earlier. You recognize patterns faster. You sense when environments are unhealthy before exhaustion fully arrives. You stop treating your inner world like an inconvenience that must constantly be suppressed for productivity. And slowly, the relationship between your external life and internal life becomes less divided. That is why psychologically aware people often describe transformation as remembering rather than becoming. They are not inventing a new self from nothing. They are reconnecting with emotional truths that existed long before social performance buried them. Jung believed individuation, the process of becoming psychologically whole, begins the moment a person stops running from inner contradiction and starts listening carefully enough to understand what it has been trying to say all along. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. Leave a like. Comment if you have ever gone through something like this. See you in the next video.